now we're going to start on pages 7 and 8. Pages 7 and 8 is basically two different tasks on the same problem. We're going to do on this video task 7A, which is we're going to take this problem on page 7, and then we're going to use the form on page 8 to go through the stat calc lin reg process manually. And this is what you would be doing on some of your IAs. If you're doing linear regression on your IA and there's not really much else math in your IA, probably you're going to be doing the process manually. Okay, and so this form is not actually for you to use on your IA, but it's to guide you in doing it with your IA. Now, why isn't it probably something you're going to use on your IA? Because you're going to pretend that you know exactly how to do it using, you know, math textbooks and internet references, not because your teacher made you a form which is supposed to just scaffold you in your first moments with linear regression. Okay. Also, the form only does problems with 10 data points, and you're probably going to have more than 10 data points. Okay. By coincidence, this problem here, Jill hangs her clothes out to dry every Saturday and notices the clothes dry more quickly some days than others. She investigates the relationship between temperature and the time her clothes take to dry. There are exactly 10 data points here. So this is perfect for using the form on page 8. Okay. By the way, if you remember, there are formulas for C, M, and R, and those formulas are incorporated into this sheet, okay? Notice that the sheet never really mentions the sigma notation too much, okay? It does it all based on these little shapes, which is one reason why you probably don't want to use this on your IA, because it might make it look like you don't really understand the notation, okay? But this is just to start out with, right? Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our X and Y values. They were very nice. They told us which one's X and which one's Y. And we're going to copy these rows vertically into these columns, okay? So we're going to have, instead of 25, 32 across, we're going to put 25, 32, 27 down. So I'm just going to write all the X values going down the column instead of going across, my first step. And this kind of sets us up for doing the 7B task, which is to do this into Google Sheets. By doing this by hand on this form, we can kind of imagine what it's going to look like in Google Sheets too. And then I'll give you a Google Sheets lesson for the page 8 video. So 25, 38, 105, 70, 35. We're pretty much going to follow the same process that we did a few pages ago in the packet. We use the calculator to help us. We're going to do that too. It's just that I'm teaching you how to use this form. Okay. All right. So we're going to eventually add these, but we're going to have the calculator help us with that. Okay. We're going to fill in x squared, y squared, and xy. We're going to use the calculator to help us with that too. So why don't we do that? We're going to fill in just the first two columns into the calculator, into stat edit. And then we're going to use the other columns, L3, L4, and L5, to populate the rest of the rows, okay? Because we already know how to use formulas in for L3 and L4, and then we don't even need a spreadsheet. We could use the calculator to do a lot of stuff. So I'm going to put these two columns into L1 and L2, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, I populated the first two rows with X and Y. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out my totals using the method that I did before, but then later I'm also going to populate these rows using the calculator, okay? So I'm going to do stat calc 2var stats, and I'm going to get all these totals just by stat calc 2var stats without even using this, but okay. So let's see, I've got sigma x is 312. Oh, 31.2, sorry. And my, oh, it's 312. It is 312. 312. And my sigma y is 653. Later, I'm going to find out that it's like sigma x squared. I already have that too. Oops, I went past it. Sigma x squared is 9962. And my sigma y squared is 50369. And finally, my sigma xy is 19065. So I actually have everything I need to do my C, M, and R calculation, but I'm also going to fill in the rest of the sheet, because when you do it by hand, I'm doing air quotes, you want to have this entire thing filled in. Okay, so let's do stat edit, and now instead of doing stat edit with just L1 and L2, we're going to create more columns, and we're going to create the columns by using the formulas x squared, y squared, and xy. So for L3, what we're going to do is we're going to do L1 squared. So let's do that. We'll do second L1, and then we'll do squared. And it populates it. Cool. And then what about L4? We'll do second L2 squared. And it populates it. And then finally for L5, we're going to do xy. So we'll do second L1 times second L2, and it populates it. So now all we need to do is we need to copy this data into these three columns. I'm going to start it here, 625, right? 625, 1024, but now I'm going to do it offline. I'll be right back. Okay, so see what I did here? All I did was I copied L3 here, I copied L4 here, and I copied L5 here, because I used the L3 formula function to find the square of L1, to find the square of L2, and to find L1 times L2. So I have all the numbers here. I didn't even use a spreadsheet, okay? But it's almost like having a spreadsheet, isn't it? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these formulas, right? These formulas, but all the formulas are coded with these shapes, so you don't need to use the formulas yet, okay? So let's do, first of all, our n value. We need to know the n value in order to use these alternative formulas. The n values is the number of data points. We already know that the number of data points is 10. So basically all we need to do is fill in 10 into everything that has a triangle. There we go. What about this square, the rounded square? The rounded square is sigma y. So let's put 653 into all the rounded squares. Is this fun or what? Okay, now we're going to put, let's see, 312, which is sigma x, in all the rounded ovals. And then we're going to put into the cylinders 9962. And then in all the prisms, we're going to put 5369. And then finally, in all the hexagons, we're going to put 19,065. Okay, now we're going to do all these calculations with the calculator, okay? So this is the most challenging part, to type this in carefully and not make any mistakes. This is usually where students make mistakes, okay? Remember what I told you about the vertical fraction. It's very helpful to use the vertical fraction here. Let's use it. We do it by doing math and number, and then we go down to the bottom, n/d. And then we just type everything in with the vertical fraction. Then we need to use less parentheses, okay? So we're going to put 653 times 9962 minus 312 times 19065. That's for the numerator, right? And the denominator is, 19065, 19.65. 0.65. See, it's very easy to make mistakes. Now for the bottom, it's going to be 10 times 9962 minus, and this will be 312 squared. So 312 squared. Okay. And then when I hit enter, this thing is going to give me a fraction because I did it with the vertical fraction, right? But I want to figure it out with the decimal usually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to math, and then I hit decimal, delta decimal, or change it to decimal, and then it can change it to a decimal. So my answer is going to be 245. Okay. Now I'm going to find the slope m. So to do the slope m, same process. I'm going to do math. I'm going to do number. I'm going to do the vertical fraction, and then I'm going to type everything in. Just as easy as this top one, right? In fact, it's very similar to the top one, right? I'm going to stop here, and then I'm going to do this offline, and I'll be back in a second, okay? Okay, I typed it in again, and then I'm going to go ahead and put the change to decimal symbol here, and then it'll automatically change it, and my slope is going to be negative 5.75, negative 5.75, okay? Finally, I'm going to do the Pearson's correlation coefficient. This is a big one with a square root sign, so I'm going to do this together with you here. So I'm going to do math, number, vertical fraction, and then I'm going to, on the top, it's just going to be very similar to the top of this one, right? 10 times 19,065 minus 312 times 653 divided by square root. And then now we have these giant things. Now we're going to need parentheses because the equation has parentheses, okay? 10 times 9962 minus 312 squared times 10 times 50. By the way, I noticed I made a mistake here, so I'm not going to waste time showing you the mistake I made. But look, I put the squared outside the parentheses, and the squared is supposed to be inside the parentheses, okay? When I finished, I knew I did something really bad because the R value is super, super small, okay? So this is very typical of something that you might do on your IA. So the square is supposed to be inside here. So I do second insert, and then I put the squared inside the parentheses, and now it's going to work, okay? So I go back over here, and I do second insert, and I put square inside the parentheses, and now I'm going to hit enter again, and now I have a nice number, which is negative 0.987, okay, which is very strong negative, right? So now I'm pretty much done. The only thing I'm going to do now is, since I already have it into stat edit, right, I have my L1 and L2 values in stat edit, why don't I go ahead and run StatCalc-LinReg and make sure that I actually did everything manually, kind of manually, correctly. So I'm going to do StatCalc-LinReg, and I'm just going to make sure that the MC and the R values agree. So let's see. The R value, negative 0.987. Yes, it agrees. The B value, the y-intercept, 245. Yes, it agrees. And the slope value, negative 5.75. Yes, it agrees. All right. So when you do your IA, this is super important. Even though you're not supposed to use a calculator, maybe because your IA doesn't have any other math in it, there's nothing that says you can't use the calculator to confirm that your answer is correct so that you don't get, find out when your rough draft comes back to you that it was like, mistakes. Okay. So that was task 7A. 7B, which is the next video, I'm going to show you how to do this into Google Sheets, which helps when you have more data than just 10 points, right?